Wade Keller would write, Roddy Piper talked to the UK press about his new TV project and noted there is a new 5-year deal with WWE. That is not a contract that required him to work for WWE in any capacity. It's just a contract that gives WWE the right to market his likeness in various projects in exchange for Piper getting a share. I think this might be one of the first times that we heard about a Legends deal. When do you remember Legends deals becoming a thing?
Well, probably about this time, frankly, when we were looking at when you look at WrestleMania 1, okay, so here now you're at about 22, something like that, 21, 22, and your WrestleMania main event, they're a little bit older now, and they actually are legends. So is there a way to tie them up and put them under contract, continue to utilize them for their name value to some lapsed fans and create some new ones? So I think it was about this time, because it had been 20 years since Mania.
It's pretty remarkable though, that if this is the same era where you're saying, hey, we got to market the old guys, for the mainstream press, the names they're familiar with. And at the same time, it's when you guys say, hey, what if we started doing Legends deals? I mean, it just makes sense to me. You use that as, again, a way to have a name out there that fans recognize and then hope they fall in love with Batista or John Cena or whatever else.
Do what you got to do.
Let's keep it going here. Let's talk about Backlash itself. We've been filibustering for like 50 minutes. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler introduced the show. The first match, and man, there's a lot to unpack here. Two of my favorites, Shelton Benjamin and Chris Jericho. Shelton Benjamin gets the win and retains the Intercontinental title in 14 minutes and 38 seconds. Wade would say very good match, but they had to win over the crowd, which at first wasn't reacting to either wrestler. Benjamin put in the most exciting in-ring work of the night with his innovative and expanding arsenal, including a leap from the mat to the top rope into a quick superplex. And that is remarkable to see, by the way. The crowd sided more with Jericho than Benjamin in the end, though Benjamin scored a 3 count after a series of leverage pin reversals. Jericho blew off Todd Grisham's attempt at a post-match ringside interview. 3 3/4 stars. Man, I love watching Shelton Benjamin from this era. I love watching Shelton Benjamin from any era. One of the most gifted athletes in the history of the company. Fair to say?
Absolutely. Shelton came in, was part of that Brock class with John Cena and Batista, and a lot of studs, so to speak. Jared's like, God damn, you're a blue chipper class or sassafras. And Shelton, I think that, first of all, he can do anything. To this day, he can do just about anything. Incredibly talented performer. Maybe missing a little bit of that it factor, but a great performer, and given the opportunity and being able to work with someone like a Jericho just makes him shine all that much more.
Let's talk about Jericho for a minute, because this is quite the tumble, at least to me. I mean, this guy just a couple of years prior to this is closing WrestleMania, defending his undisputed championship. He had just beaten The Rock and Steve Austin in December of 2001. Fast forward, WrestleMania 2002, he's closing the show with Triple H. And now, just a handful of years later, he's in the opener for the Intercontinental title, losing. And I know what you're going to say, because me and you've talked about this before. Oh, you can't be in the main event every week. I get that. But when was The Undertaker or Triple H or Stone Cold or The Rock or John Cena or Batista, after they'd been to the top of the mountain, when are they on the opening match and losing for the Intercontinental title?
Cena has been. A lot of guys have been. And again, you can't do it. And Jericho is the type of character that was able to do that and give you a great match. And it's a difference in philosophy where people look at the first match as the curtain jerker. That's not the case anymore. And it wasn't the case then. The entire show, if you're going to be on a pay-per-view event, then you better be worthy of being on the pay-per-view event, whether you're the first match or the last match. And that was a philosophy there. And Jericho and Shelton was just as important as anything else on the card.
I mean, Jericho, we've heard over the years, could be pretty vocal. What's his attitude like in this era?
God, I remember Chris, during this era, shit, I think Chris was on top of his game. You know, Chris understood the business, knew it had ups and downs, and you're moving as long as you're involved in the story. I think he was good.
Let's talk about the next match, but first, I guess we should mention Coach did interview Edge backstage, but let's get to the next match. It's Rosie and Hurricane, two of my favorites, and they're going to be in there with William Regal and Christian, also the Heartthrobs, and then Simon Dean and Maven. This feels like, let's just throw everybody we got who doesn't have a match into a match. Let's break it down a little bit though. They do get plenty of time. 13 minutes, 40 seconds. When it's all over, Rosie and Hurricane are your winners. They're your new tag champs. 2 3/4 stars. And Wade would say it was much better than expected. And, I don't know. I really liked it. What did you think of this one? Talk to us about how it came together. You know, the pairing of Rosie and Hurricane, because as a comedy act, it's maybe one of the best of the era. Of course, we know we lost Rosie way too soon, but superhero in training, this has Brian's fingerprints all over it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You know, Hurricane was such a strong talent, and it was a great character. And you're looking for something to do with this big bastard Rosie, Matt Anoa'i, and he's got a smile that will light up a room. Just a really, really personable gentleman that if you didn't know him and you look at him from afar, man, that's a big, scary dude. So to try and lighten that up a little bit, and he took to the superhero in training like just goose to a water, water to a duck. You know, he liked it. He liked it a lot, Connie. And they became an entertaining duo. You look at Jerry and Regal, fucking off the chart. Great chemistry there. And there you go.
Well, no, you got to tell me about the Heartthrobs. We don't ever talk about them.
Heartthrobs, I think one of those dudes worked in the office and wanted to be a wrestler and had quit the office and went on. There just wasn't a whole lot there. There were two young guys that had worked independents, had been able to come in. They did some enhancement work for us, had a little dance gimmick, but not much more than that. I think that they were pigeonholed. I mean, they did one thing and that's all they did. Beyond that, it was a little hard to take them seriously or to develop them into anything beyond that.
They feel like a gimmick right out of the 80s or early 90s. Who would have been such a big fan of that? I mean, they're only with the company on the main roster for a year. They're talented individual performers. It just feels like the gimmick, well, there's only so much you can do with it.
It was, but even when you tried to take them out of the gimmick, that's all they did. That makes sense. They didn't and couldn't grow, in my opinion. Nice guys, super nice guys, sweetheart guys, but they just, as far as trying to draw any money with them or do anything beyond what you were doing with them, wasn't going to happen.